Children's Chapel. My name is Amanda Esco, and I am the director of the Religious Education Program here at the First Unitarian Church. Friends, look at where I am. I am in Little Chapel. I am so glad to be back into our space. There's been renovations happening in the downstairs classrooms of the building, and this is one of my very first opportunities to be back in the building. I am so glad. Even though we're physically distant right now, sometimes being in this space helps me feel grounded. And I hope that you seeing this space helps you feel grounded too. Let's start Children's Chapel today by lighting our chalice. I got it right here. Symbol of light, symbol of knowledge, symbol of warmth, symbol of freedom. We light this chalice as a symbol of our faith. Here we gather to celebrate hope and the infinite possibilities of love. Now, those of you who have been fortunate enough to spend some time here at First Church know that Little Chapel is used for our Children's Chapel weekly. Children and youth meet here to light a chalice, share joys and concerns, and learn from and with one another. It's nice to be here. Let's start by sharing our joys and concerns. It's important to keep sharing your joys and concerns. I know everyone in my house this week has had a lot of feelings, and I imagine it's probably the same in yours. So share with those that are with you, share with those that you love. I'll start. This week in the United States, this Saturday is the 4th of July. And so my family has a lot of fun activities that we can do at home together. And I'm excited to share them with them. Concerns, I am concerned because, as I said, renovations happened here, and that meant Lissa and I had to empty our office. It's such a mess. So now everything is all over the place. Our furniture is everywhere, and we have to put it back. I am not looking forward to this, but I am looking forward to it being putting back together. I'll keep you in on the loop about how it's coming. You can hold me accountable. So share your joys and concerns with those that you love who are with you right now. I'll be right here waiting for you. Thank you for sharing your joys and concerns. It's important to keep sharing. I know I say that every week, but it doesn't get less important. There will be weeks that things are really easy. There'll be weeks that things are harder. We need to keep sharing with one another and with those that you love. So thanks for being brave and doing that. This week's UU of the Week is an important woman in UU history. I hope you'll enjoy her. Once upon a time, in Massachusetts, lived a Universalist playwright, essayist, poet, religious educator, and revolutionary feminist. Any guesses on who this is? I'll give you one more hint. This person was married to the man credited with bringing universalism to the shores of the new America. If you guessed Judith Sargent Murray, you were right. Judith Sargent Murray was born on May 5th, 1751, in Gloucester, Massachusetts. She was the oldest child of Judith Saunders and Winthrop Sargent. Her family was very wealthy. Even though her family was wealthy, she was not allowed to attend school. She was taught basic reading and writing, and her mother taught her a lot of needlework or sewing. Remember, for girls at this time, education was not considered valuable. They were going to be supported financially by their husbands. Although no one encouraged her, Judith was determined to learn and write. When she was an adult, reflecting on her life, she told Reverend William Emerson, father of fellow UU of the Week, Ralph Waldo Emerson, that I had written a little work which in the simplicity of my years I determined a history. Early on, she was a poet, and her father loved sharing her work and showing how smart she was. Judith's family had helped establish the first parish church, where she was taught that kindness should be the first in every action, and that goodness was the most important thing in everyone's lives. When she was 18, she was married to John Stevens. After she was married, her and her husband had learned of this new teaching called Universalism through the writings out of England. At this same time, a Universalist minister, John Murray, was setting sail to the new American colonies. Right away, Judith knew that she had found a friend in kindred spirit and began writing to him. They wrote letters for a long time. The American Revolution was just beginning, and while Judith supported the war, she was against violence of any kind. Judith was also part of a group of Universalists who wanted to not go to their local church, First Parish. At this time, there was usually only one church in the whole town, and everyone was required by law to go there. The group of Universalists wanted to start their own church, the Independent Church of Christ, wanting John Murray to be their minister. First Parish was not happy about this and actually started a lawsuit against them. In 1786, the Massachusetts Supreme Court ruled the very first victory for religious freedom in the United States and said the Universalists could start their own church. At this same time, Judith began writing and teaching the Universalist children of Gloucester. She began to write her own curriculum of religious education lessons for the children. This is also called the Catechism. This is considered one of the very first works written by an American Universalist woman, and the very first religious education materials produced in the United States. Judith continued to write and have her writings be published. She was a feminist who, along with Abigail Adams, a Unitarian, wrote that in order for this new country to succeed, both men and women needed to be educated. Unfortunately, her husband, John Stevens, ran into significant business problems and was about to be thrown into debtor's jail for owing people too much money. Instead, he decided to set sail for the West Indies and set up a new business. But he died along the travels. With the death of her husband, Judith was free to marry her old friend and letter-writing companion, John Murray. Judith continued to write under her name as well as other pen names. Women often had to use pen names to write during this time, especially if their writing was anything political or controversial. Through this time, Judith and John had 2 children, a boy and a girl. Unfortunately, their son did die shortly after birth. As John continued to preach and write, Judith's writing actually started to financially support their family. She wrote plays, including the play The Medium, which is considered to be the very first play produced by an American author. Her husband, John, died in 1815 after 27 years of marriage. Judith continued to write about women, universalism, and the new America. She died in her daughter's home in Mississippi on June 9th, 1820. Judith will always be remembered as a writer, a feminist, and a religious educator. Thank you, Judith, for your contributions to our community. Thanks for learning about our UU of the Week, Judith Sargent Murray. She is an important figure in American Universalist history. Let's look at our Wonder Box today. Oh, it's a caterpillar and a magnifying glass. Today, I want us to talk about how special caterpillars are. Caterpillars begin their life as tiny little eggs, usually laid on seeds. As they grow, they become bigger. At some magical point, the caterpillar realizes it needs to change, so it wraps itself up in a cocoon. Inside the cocoon, the caterpillar starts to change and grow, and that's a good thing. They use this time in the cocoon to rest. As people, growing makes us tired. Sometimes it's physically tired, sometimes it's mentally or emotionally tired. Changing our bodies, changing our minds, changing our spirits requires us to rest and reflect. After a while, the cocoon slowly starts to break open and a beautiful butterfly emerges. This process is called metamorphosis, and it means that it changes its shape from the one it was had at birth as it reaches adulthood. Humans are a lot like butterflies, and that is a very good thing. As we grow older and change, we can change our ideas. I want you to think of something you believed in as a small person. Do you still believe that now? If you're older, what about something in middle or high school? As people, we need to be able to take in new information and change our opinion, just like a butterfly changes. Humans get the opportunity to grow and change. In Unitarian Universalism, our fourth principle calls us to do just this. Now, who remembers our fourth principle? 1, each person is important. 2, be kind in all you do. 3, we help each other learn. 4, we search for what is true. We are called to read, to think, and to question what we learn. By approaching information with a critical lens, we can make up our minds for ourselves. Here's an example from my life, how I changed my opinion. When I was a smaller human, I learned about Columbus Day in elementary school. I was taught that Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue and discovered the new world of America. I was taught that basically because he landed here, the Puritans found America, and then we got the United States. He was basically a great guy. As an adult, I learned that while parts of the story are technically correct, it's mostly wrong. He didn't discover the New World. Indigenous people had always been living here. When he did land in the Caribbean islands in South America, not North America, he enslaved the indigenous people of those lands. He brought diseases that killed hundreds of thousands of people. He was not a benevolent figure in our history like I was taught. He caused harm that is still felt generations later. I changed my mind about Christopher Columbus, and I agree with the people who do not want us to celebrate Columbus Day. I want to celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day. I want to learn more and celebrate the Indigenous people in my community. I learned new information and changed my opinion. As a person, this is an important thing for us to do. Learn, evaluate, change your mind. It's okay to change your mind. George Bernard Shaw said, "Progress is impossible without change, and those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything." If we want to be an agent of change in the world, we have to be okay with changing our minds. What new information are you going to learn this week? What new information are you going to take in and maybe form a new opinion on? I can't wait to hear about it. Thank you for joining us for the Children's Chapel today. If you'd like to find out more information about the First Unitarian Church, please visit us at slcuu.org. Until next time, let's heart out.